Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Let me see here if the sound is. Yes, I see the bubble around my head, which suggests that the sound is live, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I just hopped off
Yes,
of.
I see the bubble around my head, which suggests that
And you guys hear the sound too, ladies and gentlemen. Today, well, first of all, let me welcome everyone to my channel. This is Ike Ogiama's channel. I am your host, Ike. And in this channel, we talk about being better, doing better, with an emphasis on doing, with a strong emphasis on doing. So whether it comes to mastery of subjective consciousness, managing your time, your energy, your money, your business, managing your feeling, image, and talk, understanding the inputs that you need to put in to get the outputs that you're looking for, or whether it comes to lifestyle, intellectual pursuits, and creative pursuits, what have you. We talk about that with every topic treated in a very simple, measurable, actionable, and intuitive way. And we try to have fun while we do it. And this video today is part 5 on a series that I'm doing called What Ike Reads. Taylor, what's up, Taylor? Taylor in the house. Taylor is first, as he says. Thank you very much, people. We're gonna go ahead and do a short musical interlude, as is the case, as we always do, and then we will get right into the book. This is part 5 in a series called What Ike Reads, and today we're going to be covering a book called 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is one of the founders of PayPal, part of the PayPal mafia. They're called the PayPal mafia because each of the founders of PayPal went on further after that to found many, many successful companies. Okay. Peter Thiel was also one of the first investors in Facebook. He showed up in the movie actually called Social Network, right? Where they went to San Francisco, they went to meet this guy in an office in San Francisco to get money for Facebook. I believe it was like $500,000. And he gave them, and he sits on the board of Facebook today. He also has gone, he also was or is one of the major backers of SpaceX. He found this company called Palantir, which is a private intelligence company. I think that is the best way to put it. And all these companies are worth over $1 billion. Peter Thiel is a billionaire. He is also someone who is a very serious thinker. He went to Stanford University and studied philosophy. Okay. And one thing that's very important when you try to think about people to follow, people to take seriously, number one is, are they deep, serious thinkers? That you can judge for yourself. Number two is, are they independent? And one of the measures of independence is billionaire status. Okay. Academicians, for example, can be serious thinkers. Okay. But they are beholden a lot of times to needing to get grants, needing to get funding, needing to grovel at the feet of Mr. Epstein, for example, to get money, to get funding. Okay. Even, the scientists, the physicists, and so on and so forth. Paul Krugman, the top Nobel Prize winning economists, and so on and so forth, they still have to depend on others for money. But just as was in the case in the past, a man of leisure, a philosopher, an artist, and so on and so forth, was either independently wealthy or they had a sponsor like the Medici family, for example, right? That will sponsor these people so that they can be independent. Now, Peter Thiel is a billionaire. Peter Thiel is someone who has done many, many interesting things in this world, including founding PayPal, being one of the first investors in Facebook, being one of the first investors in SpaceX. Okay. Him and Elon Musk have done many, many things over and over and over again in this particular regard. They continue to prove their independence with how bold they are. Okay. And he wrote this book called 0 to 1. And I would like to introduce both the book and Peter Thiel today. That is why we are here. Shout out to Nicer in the house. Shout out to Goldie Jones channel. Always nice to see you guys. Always nice to see you guys. And that was a great panel, a great show by Jessica X. Shout out to Jessica X in the house. Let's go ahead and do our theme music, okay? Let's go ahead and do our theme music. Get you guys all hyped up. I know Nicer likes that. I know the Goldie Jones channel likes that. I know you guys like hearing that music. So let's go ahead and get the battle within going, and I'll be right back.
On the shore, relentless in the war, the legions in our hearts, shed waters in our voice, the spirit and the flesh, the emotions that arrest, the cerebral will contest, propelling the unrest. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded, the teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand, stand up, make we burn Babylon. Guess I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Trembling in the haze with the semblance of a blaze, with gratitude and rage, we touch another page with delirious delight, impervious to light. This vitality and might encourages the flight. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded, the teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand, stand up, make we burn Babylon. Cause I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within.
Frequent darkness in internal conversation. You know what I'm saying? Word 'em up, word 'em up, word 'em up, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Once again, I am Ike. I am your gracious host. And over here in this channel, we talk about being better, doing better, and we have a great time while doing it. How do you enjoy your life more? It's about being better and doing better. Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be talking about the book called 0 to 1. 0 to 1 is subtitled Notes for Startups. Notes for Startups. So this is about tips for a startup company. Peter Thiel, whom I introduced earlier, which I will now go ahead again and introduce this guy. Okay, this is part of the PayPal mafia. Okay, him and Elon Musk, two of the founders of PayPal, amongst the others, have gone to found many other billion-dollar companies. There was something about that crew that started PayPal that is just special. They're unique. Very bright guys, okay? Peter Thiel is one of the smartest human beings walking on the face of the earth right now. You know, that's just kind of an objective fact. No big deal. Someone's got to be the smartest person, right? So along with Elon Musk, really, really, really sharp guys, but they've proven over and over again that they can do this business thing, this startup thing, this independent thinking thing, right? This maverick thing very, very well, and billionize and re-billionize over and over and over again. He taught a class at Stanford about startups, about entrepreneurship. And this book was a result of his notes. So that's a brief sketch of his deeds out here in the world. But one thing that's also interesting about him is that he's actually a deep thinker, as in he is a philosopher, if one can still use that term about people living in modern times, right? If what that term can be applicable, he is the guy. Not just because he's a deep thinker and not just because he studied philosophy as his undergrad in Stanford and then went on to law and so on and so forth, but because one of the important aspects of being an independent thinker, a man of leisure, a philosopher, is that you need to be wealthy. That was what was important because, okay, that means no one is pulling your strings. We understand that. That's what it meant to be a man of leisure. That's why you needed the Medici family that would support, for example, artists so that they can independently pursue their art. Okay? Or you have people from families that are independently wealthy, and then there will be writers and so on and so forth. And they can say whatever they want because they have power. A billionaire is also able to do that. Hence, Elon Musk can go to Joe Rogan and smoke pot and talk all the stuff that he talks and so on and so forth. Right? That is an important part of being an independent thinker, is actually having money, because money helps with the independence piece. Okay, we're all adults here, we know that that is true. Hence, that is why this particular author should be taken seriously, because he's a billionaire, because he's a smart guy, because he was the founder of PayPal, because he was one of the first investors in Facebook, and he sits on the board of Facebook. Yeah. I know we have all kinds of bad things to say about Facebook, but that's not the point. We're talking about somebody who started new things over and over again. Now he's also the founder of Palantir, whom is a private intelligence company, which is something that, look into Palantir Resources, by the way. It's one of those companies out there worth over $1 billion that's just kind of lurking in the shadows. And Peter Thiel is that guy. Now, what are we talking about? What is 0 to 1? What is this book about? 0 to 1, Notes on Startups. From a macro point of view, and I will go ahead and share my screen right now. One of the things to note about this book is that it is talking about the difference between technology on one hand and globalization on the other hand. Technology, 0 to 1, vertical progress, going from 0, this thing did not exist before, to 1. Okay, that is a technological quantum leap. Something did not exist, now it exists. Social networks did not exist before, at least in a particular form, and then they existed. Search engines did not exist before, at least in a particular form, and then it exists. Washing machines do not exist before, and then they exist. That kind of thing. We understand when something is new from a technological standpoint. And then there is what we can term horizontal growth, which is also called globalization in a certain sense, which has to do with the spreading of this thing. So one thing pops up and then it needs to be spread. Let me get a 1 in the chat if at least this particular distinction is clear. This book is about the technology side, going from 0 to 1, as opposed to from going from 1 to 2 to 3 to 1,000, right? So you go from, let's say, a typewriter to a word processor. That's a new technology that's going from 0 to 1. And then you have to spread that. You have to globalize that. You have to then take it, and China copies it, and they make it in Taiwan. And then you try to spread electricity, for example, all through Africa, and this and that and the other, try to spread the internet. That is globalization. That is going from 1 to n units, 1 to 100 units, 20 units, 1,000 units, million units, so on and so forth. But the 0 to 1 is about the invention itself. And these two things, because we love dichotomies in this channel, okay, we love looking at things that on the one hand and on the other hand. So progress comes at least in at least these two forms, right? There is progress through globalization. And globalization is something that we hear a lot about these days, by the way. It's a buzzword for the past 40 years or so. It's all about globalization, 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 right? And we don't hear so much about the inventive aspect of things. Okay, that's a challenging thing that I'm putting out there right now. And you may say, well, what do you mean? I'll show you what I mean. And this is a key point that this book makes. Okay, that yes, there are these two aspects. Okay, and they're independent of each other. There's no reason why you cannot globalize and also go from 0 to 1. But there's certain things, certain roadblocks that have to do with mindsets, government bureaucracy, and so on and so forth that block the 0 to 1 and then will tend to lead people to over depend on the globalization aspect. Like, oh, we've already done everything that needs to be done. Now it's just time to spread it. And all our future growth will come as a result of just spreading what we already do. We will get to the point where we see that that is a whole bunch of BS and that does not really work. And that is actually unsustainable. Okay. So again, 0 to 1 is about technology and vertical progress. The opposite will be globalization. It will be copying of said progress. It is within the purview of the West, and perhaps maybe not purview is the right word, but it is, or the West has taken on over here, literally in the West Coast where I'm at, over here, literally in the Bay Area, in the South Bay, Silicon Valley, where I'm coming to you from, is the area that prides itself on that 0 to 1 thing. But it only does it in the digital space, though. But let's not get into the problems with the 0 to 1 concept in general, in terms of it being absent everywhere but in the digital space. But we understand that America, the West, capitalism, if you will, unleashing the individual creativity, the individual prowess, and the individual innovative spirit is about going from that 0 to 1. And then we expect that from there, things will spread out and globalization will happen, right? So, this, in a general sense, is the picture that we're painting. From a global point of view, it has implications, or this particular kind of framework can then be used to understand what you should do when you're trying to start a company. Not all of us are going to start startups that do the 0 to 1 thing. Not all of us are in the technology space. Not all of us are in the space whereby we're going to invent something new. But understanding the mindset behind the people who do this kind of stuff, who have done this kind of stuff, and taking notes from them. If there's anybody to take notes from in this particular regard, is someone who started PayPal and invested first in Facebook and invested in SpaceX and started this Palantir industry. That's someone to pay attention to in this particular regard. Again, even if we're not going to be doing this kind of stuff, we know how these principles apply in many different aspects of our lives, many different aspects of our business, economic pursuits, and so on and so forth. Okay. So moving on. So what's the issue that the book presents, right? What is the issue? We just talked about globalization on the one hand, and we talked about the horizontal progress, which is, horizontal progress is the globalization. And then we talk about the vertical progress, which is the 0 to 1, the technology. But what is the issue? What is the issue? The Goldie Jones channel, our resident dictionary in the house, breaking it down. Chaos reign in the house. How is it going? How is it going? What is the issue that the book presents? Okay, let's break it up this way. Okay, I'm about to say something to you guys. Look around you, ladies and gentlemen, in whatever room that you're in right now. With the exception of the screens, let me repeat that. With the exception of the screens in this room that you're in, the room could be in the 1980s. There's no difference between the room you're in right now and some room in the 1980s. We need to first let that thought sink in. Let me get a 1 in the chat if you at least understand the thought. if you agree, and even if you perhaps see where this is going, we're talking about technology. We're talking about advancement. We're talking about the fact that we were promised flying cars. We were promised robots, Rosie from the Jetsons, right? There were all kinds of things. The replicators, the teleportators, the thing that you push a button and it just food appears right in front of you. All that kind of stuff. I'm saying, look, take away the screens in your room, okay? And it's very apparent in my particular house because I don't have television. I just have, computer screens. So all around my house, outside where I'm having my screens here, I could be living in 1980. There is no difference. There is no Rosie the robot. There is no flying car. Where are all these things? Technology, which we tend to think, oh, but there's all kinds of technological growth, but it's all here. Okay? It's all here. It's all in your screen. It's all in the digital space, the space of atoms. In other words, the space of atoms has not seen technological progress since the 70s, my friend. Okay, so let's look at it this way. Barton says, "Yeah, my chair would not be from 1980," but you get my point. Nothing special about it though. It's not made from, some new element that was, found in some new periodic table or some kind of, you get my point. It's not a hovering chair, okay? If we go back to 1940, so what I did was I said, okay, from 1980 to 2020, 40 years. So let's go from 1980 and go back 20 years. Huge difference between a room, a house in 1940 and a house in 1980. If you continue to go further back, the more exponential the difference was. Things came out of the blue. Washing machines, refrigerators, vacuum cleaners, all kinds of things came out. Not to talk about from the horse to the car, and then you talk about also the infrastructural growth as well. Not just the growth in your house, but let's take transportation, for example, which has been stagnant. We still deal with the same asphalt and concrete and internal combustion engine rolling wheels on asphalt and concrete. What happened? Why is this normal to us? Why is it that we've been paid off with, hey, look over here. This is, yeah, look at the screen. Isn't everything so great? Aren't we so advanced? But put away your screen, which you should be doing anyways. Put away your screen so you can open your eyes and you can look at the world in front of you for many, many reasons anyways. And notice that we have just focused in the last 40 years or more on this globalization theme, the theme of globalization. And it doesn't benefit the tip of the spear. You live in the West, whether you like it or not, this does not benefit you. Okay? It doesn't benefit you. Okay? Globalization means your jobs are going elsewhere. Not to make it about that in particular, but if you're not innovating, if you're not bringing out new things, if we don't have our flying cars and our Rosie the robots and our teleporters or whatever, then you are literally sliding way backwards relative to the rest of the world, whom doesn't need to do anything other than copy to catch up. China can continue to grow exponentially. Well, not forever, at least in the past few decades, they've grown exponentially by the globalization process, by the copying process. That's fine. That's what they should do. But we're not doing what we should be doing. And whether you are someone who is in the technology space or you're the kind of person who's going to invent the next thing or not, it is at least useful to pull the wool out of your eyes, pull the screen out of your eyes, literally, and look out around your room and realize that there has not been technological progress in the space of atoms, in the space of actual physical atoms. Everything is in digital space. And you could argue that that digital space stuff doesn't really exist. Yeah, I know it exists and I know it's really important and so on and so forth. I'm just being provocative. But in the space where you actually live and sit and drive and walk and do your laundry and so on and so forth, things have not changed much. And the argument is not because they couldn't change. It's not that. It's not that. I think there's something else going on. There are many other things going on, but let's go in. Okay, let's go in a little further. Shout out to Felicia in the house. Okay, Felicia says, "This is what my mother's always telling me." Interesting. Interesting. So, moving on here, since now that we've seen the basic sketch, the basic outline of the ideas that this book deals with, okay, let's continue to kind of dig deeper into that problem statement, okay? And then we're going to go into what the 0 to 1 ethos implies for startup and what the idea of not focusing on 0 to 1 and then just thinking that globalization is going to bring all our progress. We're going to have to notice a couple of things and I will mention them here, okay? Understand this. Copying will not sustain our economy, which is what I just said. We are over here in the West. And if you think that globalization serves us, no, it does not. We have to do the 0 to 1. The rest of the world then takes the 1 and copies it 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Again, going back to the title of the book, it's called 0 to 1 because of that. And we're not doing any 0 to 1. Okay? Not lately. Not for the past 40 years. We really haven't been doing it. Even in the space of atoms, right? Which we know that Japan, for example, and the maglev trains and so on and so forth, that other places are doing it better than we are. But no one is really doing it very well, to be honest with you. Okay? Now, that is what I mentioned when I said copying will not sustain our economy. And more importantly, think about this, and we know this to be true. The way in which we developed out here in the West, let's just say burning coal or using fossil fuel and so on and so forth. If you depend only on globalization and you try to spread, let's say, oh, now everybody needs to use pesticides and fertilizers, same old technology, right? Pesticides, fertilizers, internal combustion engines, what else? Just go ahead, keep listing them. Let's take all that stuff and spread it all over the world. Is that really what we want to do? Is that sustainable? Let me get a one in the chat if you're starting to see the picture here. Right? Oh, we've already done everything that needs to be done. All we do now and have to do now is spread things. Okay? And then there are people who say, who know this from an environmentalist point of view, for example, the people who talk about sustainability, the people who, whether it not be environmental in terms of pollution, but environmental in terms of resources, okay, that let's just go using resources, not getting more efficient via the use of new technologies, okay, let's keep digging into the ground, getting fossil fuels, and let's keep using DDT, fertilizer, and pesticides, so on and so forth, and keep just doing that same old thing. Let's spread it all to the rest of the world, and we'll lift up everybody's boats using that stuff. We know that that's going to be a disaster. So there is a segment of the population that already understands that, and they say, hey, no, stop doing this kind of stuff. Okay. I, being a hyper-capitalist type, not really much into the, hey, stop. I'm more into the, hey, we need to invent the new things so that, or shall I say, we need to invent the new things because we cannot sustainably spread the old things. The old things cannot be sustainably spread. You cannot do industrial revolution all over the world, burning coal, burning fossil fuel, burning. Yeah, we're getting some incremental increase in terms of the cleanliness of, let's say, coal or certain other things. But why not nuclear power? Look into Bill Gates, by the way. Yeah. I know Bill Gates. Many conspiracy theories regarding Bill Gates. He's gonna inject you. He's gonna sneak in your house and he's gonna needle you and your kids. But very interesting thing that Bill Gates is doing vis-a-vis the promotion of nuclear power. Okay. When people talk about, oh, nuclear power, that's bad. They keep thinking about 3 Mile Island, or was it Chernobyl or whatever, right? People keep looking back into the 80s or and stuff like that as though things have not progressed in certain regard. And this begins to give us a glimpse into why there has not been a lot of technological progress in the space of atoms, is because the space of atoms is heavily regulated. It is heavily regulated. The reason why this space, which is the space of your digital stuff, has been expanding exponentially is because there were no regulations in there. People could go in there and do all kinds of things, start all kinds of crazy stuff. The internet, cryptocurrencies, so on and so forth, okay? Because it's not regulated. But try to make any kind of progress in the world of atoms, heavily regulated. Chemical engineering, industrial engineering, petrochemical engineering, civil engineering, structural, mechanical engineering, heavily regulated. You can't do anything in these spaces, okay? And we cannot spread, okay, the old technology. Yes, go ahead. Remember to like, okay? And Nicer says, does technology transcend to globalization with 3D printing? 3D printing definitely is an aspect of, improvement in material science that could help, but the resources, though, are an issue in terms of the energy. One of the main things energy is the main thing that we always got to look at. Because, for example, when we talk about, let's say, battery technology, right? We talk about battery technology, but where is the energy really coming from? It's still coal. Let me get a one in the chat if you guys know that no matter how many battery operated cars you're using, as a matter of fact, the more battery operated cars you're using, the more you're depending on coal plants because the electricity comes from coal. Okay? You got to charge those cars, and you're charging them with coal. All right? So, energy is a main thing. Okay? And that's why I mentioned the whole nuclear power stuff and so on and so forth. Okay? And we cannot sustainably spread and talk about globalization and progress and globalization without focusing on the 0 to 1. We're just talking about the 1 to n. Copy. But that's going to we're already running into all kinds of problems. It's not sustainable, ladies and gentlemen. So the dot-com bubble, just as an aside, was some kind of a madness, some kind of a craze that was born from this belief in globalization. In other words, we just thought, oh, everything's just going to blow up now in terms of we're just going to take brick and mortar, take everything out of brick and mortar and just kind of explode it in 10,000 different directions. Pets.com and pens.com and glasses.com and everything.com and boom, explode, right? But that's not true. Doesn't work that way. You need more, which is the point here, more than just digital progress, more than just digital innovation. We actually live in the world of atoms. We have not yet downloaded our consciousness into the computers and escaped. Maybe that's what we have to do. Maybe we just need to escape the whole world of atoms altogether, get into digital space, become zeros and ones, and forget the whole damn thing, right? Maybe. Now, there is a philosophical implication to this, and I said more on this later. But so far, I'm kind of sketching out the landscape of what the book is talking about. 0 to 1, technology versus globalization. With the 0 to 1 being the technology side, vertical growth, something did not exist before, now it exists. I had a word processor. I had a typewriter before, and then I created a word processor. That's 0 to 1. And then the spreading, the globalization, the copying would just be me spreading this word processor technology from country to country, place to place, so on and so forth. Electrify this and internetify that. All right. Now, before we get into the philosophical side of things, let's talk about the startup stuff, the business stuff, the practical stuff. Okay. Which, again, whether or not you're going to be a technology person, understanding innovation is so important. Whether it's just you're raising your kids or you're trying to come up with a better souffle recipe. All right. Say that tongue in cheek. But also, in terms of any kind of business, any kind of economic pursuit, again, whether the economic pursuit involves just running a household or, starting your t-shirt printing business, understanding what people do at the cutting edge, understanding what it takes to create a PayPal, what it takes to be a Satoshi Miyamoto creating Bitcoin, for example. Understanding that kind of stuff is very key because none of us really know at the end of the day how we might be able to implement these things, or maybe we are the next person. Maybe on this channel right now, on this very, very chat, is the next person that's going to take us out of this and is going to give us our flying cars. All right. Taylor, is that you? The Goldie Jones channel. Are you going to be the one that's going to give me my flying car and my robots? I want my robot. All right. Shout out to the chat again. Let me see. I have a question here. It says, one question that I have not been able to get a clear answer to is, who invented the wheel? Gravity invented the wheel. The gravitational pull, the three-dimensional space, and the way that things tend to, anything that gets large enough becomes a wheel. And also because of the three-dimensional space and so on and so forth, the gravitational pull of these large things go around in a circular thing. Okay, so the forces, the fundamental forces of the universe being electromagnetism, the weak and the strong force, and then gravitation, they invented the wheel. All right, so now you got your question answered, okay? You got your question answered. Shout out to Jessica X in the house. Jessica X is going to give us the robot. Jessica X is going to give us Rosie the robot. Or maybe it's Jessica the robot. Excellent. Excellent. So, what are the notes for the startup? What are the implications for the startup? This part is fairly self-explanatory, okay? Think about this. And we're not going to necessarily put ourselves in the shoes of somebody who's starting things up. We're just going to say certain rather intuitive, rather self-explanatory things. For example, the next Mark Zuckerberg, okay? You're trying to be the next Mark Zuckerberg, let's say. Well, the next Mark Zuckerberg is not going to start a social network. A lot of these things are simple. They're self-explanatory. They're like, oh, that's obvious. Yes, but a lot of people don't tend to think that way. A lot of people, because we tend to look at the past, okay? We are pattern recognition machines. We gather data from the past. We create charts and graphs, okay? Whether you actually literally create it and have equations and you're thinking scientifically in that sense, or you just have patterns in your head. In other words, you have charts and graphs in your head, and you're looking to see who did something before and how can I do something that they did, or maybe do it better, right? That's not the 0 to 1 mentality. The next Mark Zuckerberg is not going to be a social media guy. The next Larry Page is not going to start a search engine. You're trying to be the next Elon Musk. Well, you can't be looking at what Elon Musk is doing right now. It's got to be something completely different. Again, it's obvious, but whenever you find yourself going in this direction of wanting to copy, And we'll get to the point here that the book makes, which is that competition is for losers. But, okay, here's something, okay, and this has to do with a stream that I made. I did a stream on without inspiration, things do not change. Without systems or without institutions, things do not last. Okay, you need the, or another way to put it is, without the individual, things do not change. Without the group, things do not last. Okay, on the side of the individual, you have inspiration and all that good stuff. But on the side of the group, you have systems, institutions, so on and so forth. Okay, don't get lost in the fact that, oh, well, I'm going to need to do something completely new, but without understanding that you also are going to need to bring it into existence. And I did a whole stream on this, completely separate from the ideas in this book, a whole stream on this, understanding that things do not exist through inspiration. Inspiration is fleeting. Inspiration doesn't exist. Okay. You actually need to instantiate things in time. And to instantiate things in time, you need systems, you need accountants and bean counters, maybe a lawyer. No lawyers. We don't need lawyers. We don't want lawyers, okay? But we need people whom can institutionalize, systematize, and actually run things. We need some managers, okay? We need a system. We need a matrix, in other words, okay? The system, the matrix is required in order to instantiate things, okay? It is always the case that the inventor becomes the man. Okay, the disruptor, the disruptive inventor, the Anakin Skywalker becomes Darth Vader. Okay, the what's his name? George Lucas, right? He was a disruptive new filmmaker. Now he is the man, right? Now he's selling stuff to Disney. Okay, that's kind of how the system works. Okay, you can just be a disruptor, but in order to instantiate something, you're going to need to build a system. And that system then becomes the new man, right? Which then becomes perhaps a little corrupt, a little ossified, calcified, so on and so forth. But now I'm going on a big different tangent. But watch that stream, an important stream about this dichotomy between, okay, things need to be shaken up, molds need to be broken, but then the bricks by which the old mold was created, which is systems, traditions, groups, need to take those bricks and you need to build a new system. Otherwise, nothing actually exists. You cannot just live in free-floating hippieville. Okay? No, doesn't work. Even hippies need to plant crops and eat and do all these things, and a system will then form. Anyways, just like the free zone, the autonomous zone in Portland, what happened? As a matter of fact, they proved a very important point. They decided, oh, hippie this and free that, anarchy, blah, blah, blah. Let's form this autonomous zone. And then they immediately put a border around it. And then they started immediately creating certain restrictions, like this place only for Black people and minorities. And then they immediately formed a very, very corrupt and very, very violent police system. Okay, they had these people going around having guns and knocking people on the head and so on and so forth. It was like a real life experiment there, just showing you that you got to be a grown up about understanding the need for the matrix, the need for a system, the need for institutions in order to instantiate things in reality and in time. And otherwise, all this inspiration stuff all in your head, if you don't actually bring it down into reality, you're just fooling yourself. Okay, so point number 3 in this particular regard, okay? And we're just giving some basic notions that flow from the first slide that we did, okay? Notions that flow from this 0 to 1 mentality, that authorities, okay, there is no such thing as an authority in terms of innovation. So saying that you're going to go to school and get an education so that you can innovate is counter the idea of 0 to 1, okay? It is completely contrary to it. You cannot get the 0 to 1 from an authority. It needs to be something that does not exist. It needs to be something that is outside the current matrix, the current mold. Okay, you need to go out, either break the current mold and form a new one, or start a new mold right out of scratch. And how can you have an authority in something that does not exist? There is no authority in something that does not exist. Okay? So, this is the kind of thinking that is required, ladies and gentlemen. Instantiate. Our resident dictionary in the house is breaking it down as we go on and on over here, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? We're just jolting ourselves a little bit, trying to think through, like, okay, well, if I'm going to do something like this, or if I'm going to do anything in particular, like, for example, the question I always ask myself, I'm in a regular kind of boring space in terms of structural engineering, okay? Um, Nothing particularly crazy there going on. Yes, there's technological growth in terms of construction, means and methods, and so on and so forth. There's technological growth in terms of 3D BIM modeling in the land of digital space, and so on and so forth, and many things like that. But one question that I always try to ask myself is, and this is good of any business that you're in, ask yourself always, and you may not come up with the answer tomorrow, you may not come up with the answer in 10 years, but what is it right now that I could be doing for my clients that either they don't even know that they need, and that I have never thought that they need? No authority exists on this because it does not exist in my space right now. I don't care what you're doing. You may be, again, printing t-shirts. You may be just a YouTuber. You may be a salesperson in a particular industry. You may be trying to start your pet grooming service, making six figures in pet grooming. The question is, what can I do for my clients that they do not even know that they need right now? Or maybe they don't think that someone in my position, in my particular career track, in my particular sector needs to be providing for them. Again, the answer may not come to you tomorrow, may not come to you in 5 years, but always think that way, outside the box, to be cliche, right? Which is, what can I be doing right now in my particular sector, in anything that you're doing? Always think that way. What else? What else? What else? Can I add this to it? Okay? Can I add this other thing to this other thing? Because a lot of times it's about bringing the arbitrage, for example, is in time. Let's say Uber, for example. Transportation has always been there, right? But it's like transportation has been there, technology has been there in terms of digital technology. The phone has been there. And then they're like, I'm going to bring these two things together and combine it in this gig economy type of thing, where now I'm going to harness any car out there that wishes to be part of this network to bring transport $1 billion, right? That kind of a thing. And in your particular space, so that you're not over there thinking, oh, well, I'm not a genius. How can I do this? How can I not, there is always, it's about asking that question. Okay. And there is no authority on this question because it does not exist. There is no traditional in this question because it does not exist. There is no system to answer this question because it does not exist yet. It is going to be in your head. Keep asking yourself the question, and even keep a dream journal or whatever. Watch what goes on in your head. The answers will come eventually. All right. Enough of the tangent for now. Just another thing to kind of, this is a quote from Nietzsche, by the way, and I think it's a brilliant quote. That's why I threw it in there. I paraphrased it, which is that madness is rare in individuals. Okay, madness is rare in individuals, but madness is the norm with groups. Madness is the norm with the mob. Again, a lot of things that you take as conventional wisdom are insane, ladies and gentlemen. They are crazy. And you need to challenge that from time to time. Madness is rare in individuals, but you get a mob together, and by definition, they're crazy. It's like they can't help, a mob cannot help but be insane. Okay? So whenever you find yourself going with the flow, wherever, everybody agrees on that, blah, 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 it's insane. And a lot of, people in this space of YouTube, maybe you want to call it the RP space, whatever you want to call it, we're kind of well aware of that kind of a thing. That, okay, well, generally speaking, the way the world works, okay, versus the conventional wisdom about the way the world works are very different things. And it is not because the way the world works is so complex. Okay, again, let's say we just stick with the RP truths, let's say, right? RP truths are not complex, they're just more close. They actually are simpler because you just look at the nature of things. Okay, here's nature. I don't blind myself. But what tends to blind the people who don't understand RP truths, for example, it's not that they're stupid. It's just that the mob told them something. The group tells them something. Conventional wisdom tells them something. Again, Nietzsche. Madness is rare. Okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, another question to ask yourself is, what is an important truth that few people agree with you on? We're trying to get into this area here of like, how do I unearth? Because it's not easy by definition to do something new. Again, we do not have to invent the flying car, but Jessica has promised us the robot. Okay. Jessica has promised us the robot. But in any particular endeavor that we're doing, I mentioned before that you need to ask, what can I do for my clients right now? And it could be just adding this to that. In other words, two things that actually already kind of exist, but your clients never thought that they needed this kind of a service from their dry cleaner, for example. And you're like, hey, they're coming to me for dry cleaning. How about if I add this other thing? Who knows what it is, right? Another thing to ask yourself is, what important truth, okay, do I go and look for something in yourself that you know to be true that very few people agree with you on, okay? And I'm repeating myself again, authorities do not exist in this area. Now, competition is for losers. Competition is for losers. This immediately comes from the 0 to 1 approach, in the sense that 0 to 1 is not about competition. Competition comes in when you're trying to then copy from 1 to n. You're trying to globalize. Let me get a 1 in the chat if you understand what I'm saying here. 0 to 1 is by definition a monopoly. 0 to 1 is by definition a monopoly. Competition then comes in when you're trying to be like, okay, I'm going to try to manufacture this new word processor for cheaper in this particular sector. Or I'm going to try to take this particular word processor to Africa and spread it in this way. I'm going to try to, in other words, the word processor has already been created from 0 to 1, and then people come in and then they compete. Okay. Competition is not the landscape of 0 to 1. And also, competition is for losers. Competition is for losers. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. What is meant by this? Okay, what is meant by this stuff? What do you mean competition is for losers? Are you just being provocative? Yes, he's being provocative, but he's going to demonstrate what he means by that. Okay, a lot of times we hear this thing, especially from a consumer standpoint. Let's just create this now. We are in this chat room. We're trying to do stuff, right? We're not consumers, not in this particular stream, anyways. We're trying to do things. We're trying to move the world ahead. All right. We say, God damn it, there has not been innovation in the space of atoms. I look around me and the room could be from the 1980s. If I shut down all the screens, there is no flying car. There is no flying skateboard. There is no Rosie the robot. There is no teleportation machine. I want all these things. We're going to make things happen. Okay. Or we're just trying to invent something new, something small within our business space. By definition, we're not involved in consuming. We're involved in creating. And you need to change your mindset. Competition may be great when you're trying to get the cheapest burger. And you're like, hey, you know what? I need more restaurants here so that they can compete. And then maybe I can get a cheap burger. Cheap burger is not going to save the world. Competition does not save the world. Monopoly saves the world by definition. What do you think the patent office is about? If you want to think about, because the world is filled with dichotomies, the world is filled with trade-offs. I know that. I know that competition is good. In one particular aspect, I just showed you that, yes, from the aspect or from the point of view of a consumer, you may want competition. But what's more important, consuming or producing? I would argue that producing is actually more important to the human race in general. Not consuming and not trying to get the cheapest burger, but trying to create something out of thin air. That is more important. Okay? Then another way to look at the dichotomy is if you say, well, but everybody keeps saying, the authorities that be, they tell me that competition is good. No, 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 no. They tell you that, but they also tell you something else. The same authorities that be have the patent office, don't they? The government tells you competition is good, right? The government brings in these monopolies and tries to break them up, right? And you say, yeah, 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 yes, let's vote for people who break up the big companies, big bad companies. But they also have the patent office. The patent office is to sustain and to ensure monopolies. Woo. Yeah, because without the monopoly, without the 0 to 1, nothing happens. There will be no new food for us to be competing for and fighting for, slitting each other's throats over, if you do not allow for the single solitary individual in this particular moment to manifest out of thin air something new and then protect him or her so that they can bring out the robot or the flying car or the whatever. Okay? In other words, competition is for losers. And let's just go through my thoughts on this that I've put over here. What did I put over here? Okay. I said perfect competition is an illusion, okay, and does not lead to profit, right? Economic theory, very, very loose, rudimentary economic theory talks about monopoly on the one hand and then perfect competition on the other hand. We need not get into the mechanisms and so on and so forth. We have an intuition, or let's just say we have an example. You want to know what competition leads to? Think of restaurants. Okay. Why aren't you running into the restaurant business to go compete with everybody else and operate on thin margins if competition is so great? Okay. Again, think from the point of view of your selfish individual mindset. Also from the mindset of someone who needs to start something, because they tend to be one and the same thing. Remember, we said the individual is the one that will bring forth this particular thing and then needs to then instantiate it with a system and so on and so forth and bring it into being. And then now you have Facebook, and then Facebook becomes so big and then the government wants to destroy it. But point being, why is competition for losers? Well, thin margins. Oh, but what do you mean? You just want all this profit? Is life all about profit, Ike? Is life all about profit? Well, that's not really the argument here. If you want to have that argument, we can have that argument. Yes, I want every goddamn profit I can get. All the money. I want it all, ladies and gentlemen. Makes things great. All right? People who say money doesn't give you happiness, they're all broke. It's never the people with a lot of money coming out telling you that stuff. Okay? Tell them to get the hell out of here with that crap. All right? And who said anything about happiness? We talk about money. We're not talking about happiness. It's kind of funny. Again, I know this is something that I say often in my channel, which is money is a tool. Okay? Like this cup. All right? Whenever we're just talking about cups right now, no one is going to bring up happiness, right? No one is going to bring up happiness. If I talk about shovels, no one's going to bring up happiness. If I talk about starers, no one's going to bring up happiness. If I talk about any other tool, no one brings up happiness. But somehow, again, it's that madness of crowds thing. we think it makes sense to start talking about happiness when somebody talks about this other tool, which is the means of exchange of value called money. Okay, let's talk about shovels. Oh, well, shovels not going to make you happy. Who the hell said anything about well, this tool called money will do all these things for me more than many other tools. It'll actually get me tools to do other things with. And you want to talk about happiness? Classic deflection. Ladies and gentlemen, and look, guys, don't get me started. No, it's not your fault. I got myself started. This is Ike, the monopoly man. Ike, the hyper capitalist, getting out here doing his thing. It is the height of insanity whenever people talk about money and somebody out of their freaking rotten mouth starts talking about happiness. Who the hell said anything about happiness? So, let's see what's going on over here in the chat. Afi Kingdom says, facts, had to step away, but I'm back. All right, Barton says, that is why I say the political discourse about free markets is a scam. Yeah, you want to get in. Oh, man. Things are deep, broad, complex, and so on and so forth. And on this channel, in my life in general, I like to take a philosophical standpoint, which basically means you go down to the root of everything and you can see all the trade-offs and the dichotomies so that you're not just over here saying competition is always good or go and say monopoly is always good. It's like, no, you can sit down. You can look at things from the perspective of a consumer. You can look at things from the perspective of a producer. You can look at things from the standpoint of an individual. You can look at things from the standpoint of the global world, what will push it forward. And you can understand that life has no perfect solutions, only trade-offs. That's the adult point of view. The adult point of view is the philosophical point of view. It looks at reality and does not expect any simple answers. It expects that choices will be made and then consequences will be lived with. It expects that a system by definition cannot be perfect, right? That is the grown-up philosophical point of view as opposed to the partisan point of view, so on and so forth. But yes. Vocab, broke folks who have no money. Compromises, exactly. Okay. And we all must live within a matrix. The matrix is that set of compromises that we have to have. And if you think you're going to jump out from one matrix into another matrix, which is perfect, no, it's just going to be another set of compromises. And when you get sick of this set of compromises, it's fine to be sick with the set of compromises within which you now reside. But understand that next door or wherever you're going to go is another set of compromises, my friend, right? We all know this, right? Whether it be the grass is always greener kind of stuff and so on and so forth. Same thing in the most macro scales you can imagine. You're going to move from one set of compromises to another set of compromises. You're looking for heaven on earth, that's what leads to pure disaster and people killing each other, fighting over utopia, and so on and so on and so on, ladies and gentlemen. But again, last word on my tangent here is that whenever you hear somebody start talking about happiness when you bring out money or talk about money, understand how crazy that is. I want you guys need to really think about how crazy that is. It's like you're talking about, here's my tire iron. Is this, I need more tire irons and this tire iron is better. You know what? Well, this is what will help me for the better tire to get wrench. And someone says, well, that tire iron, it doesn't make you happy. And I'm like, I was just trying to change my lug nuts, bro. What the hell's wrong with you? Why are you telling me about happiness, bro? I wasn't talking to you about happiness, man. Why do you keep talking about happiness? That tells you something, that there's something psychologically messed up in their head. That's why they repeat this mob madness. Okay? So, or is costly. That's why competition is for losers. Okay, because we tend to think competition is great, but competition is very inefficient and costly. Okay, now it is very important to understand that you need to keep potential competitors in-house. This is something, just a slight tangent, let's just mention that. Okay, don't push competitors out there to go come back and compete with you, especially if you're trying to start something. Okay, the track of competition is something that certain authorities, certain systems have in there. Okay, we're going to compete for grades, we're going to compete to get into Stanford, we're going to compete to get into the Harvard Law School, then we're going to compete to be a Supreme Court clerk, a clerk to a Supreme Court judge. This was the track that Peter Thiel, the author of this book, was on. He did not get the clerkship. Okay, so as I said, Peter Thiel is one of the smartest guys working around the planet right now. Just by definition, objectively speaking. Okay, he's just one of those people. Someone has to be the smartest, right? So he was on that track. Okay, he's gonna get full scholarship to Stanford and then Harvard Law and then this and that. And oh, of course, you're gonna go be a Supreme Court clerk and then you're gonna go to one of the big law firms and you're gonna whatever, right? The fact that he did not get the clerkship he mentioned was a very, very, very good thing in his life, because if he had gotten it, he would have not founded PayPal. Or he would not have founded PayPal. In other words, a lot of the competitive track that people put you on and make you think that you're winning or you're going to win something, just going to be another one gray suit wearing lawyer dude in New York, not really doing anything for the world other than drafting other people's contracts and, suing people and squeezing out money out of things. Not really creating anything new in the world. Competition is for losers is provocative, but it is provocative by choice. Okay? Because it is meant to shake you up from this thing where, competition is always good, monopoly is always bad. Let's take a philosophical point of view and understand that life's about trade-offs and that these things are values in and of themselves. It's just a question of domain, compromises, trade-offs, and so on and so forth. You want to do something to move the world ahead, the whole of humanity ahead, you can't be competing. You need to create the space for yourself and become a monopoly. Okay? That's the idea. Now, another thing why, and I may mention it coming up, but another reason why competition is, well, let's go to monopolies, okay? Because here's the other thing. Monopolies are great. The flip side of competition is for losers. Monopolies are great. And it kind of makes you think, come on, what are you talking about? Barton says, exactly. Money is just a tool to facilitate exchange of goods and services. Exactly. It is absolutely insane for you to start talking about happiness when somebody talks about a tool. You're a bitch nigga. All right? Stop doing it. You have that habit, or if any of your pals do that stuff, you need to just point and you're just like, hey. It is you want to talk about deflection? Over us here, we in the RP space, we understand deflection, right? We understand that kind of thing that people do. The biggest non sequitur, the biggest deflection you can do is someone is talking about a tool and you start talking about happiness. Nonsense. Okay? So we are saying that this thing called monopoly, which we've been told is a very bad thing, is actually great. Okay? It's great. In other words, it has value. It has a place. And it's actually what you want. All right? You want competition for everybody else, right? Give me a 1 in the chat. Microphone check. Microphone check. Microphone check. Microphone check. Microphone check. Is the sound back? Oh man. Oh man. Let me see. Hi, Samuel. So scary. Wow, it's been a while. Is the sound back now? Yeah, I'm back. And okay. Okay. What was the last thing I said? What was the last thing I said? I pulled gangsta bitch there. Okay. Good. 6 minutes of rewind. Ladies and gentlemen, 6 minutes of rewind. As he says, build it while we fly it. And I guess I should have paid attention to that other thing there. Okay. It was good info, and I was going extemporaneously, and I probably cannot reproduce what I was saying. So, my bad. My bad, my bad, my bad, my bad, my bad. But let me do this then. Let me try to go over here, okay, and say this. Did you guys at least hear the part where I was talking about the fact that you want to be a monopoly? Let me get a one in the chat if we can retrace our steps to the point where I said that you want to be a monopoly. Okay? You want competition for everyone else, but you want to be a monopoly. You want to be the guy that corners the market in a particular area. You want to be the person that is so good at what you do or has invented a particularly new thing such that there is no competition, and you want to be that person. Okay? Yes, and then it cut out. As O'Shea would say, the white man got my wireless. The white man got my wireless microphone. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as long as the sound is still going, basically what I was saying, yes, I will definitely check out. Shout out to you guys, by the way, and my apologies again. Okay, I will be doing an edit of this one and then reposting it, perhaps. Okay, perhaps. Let me see over here. Let me go ahead and check the Cash App. Now retrace my steps, and we'll talk about what we were talking about. Okay. Shout out to Afi Kingdom for the Cash App. Definitely much appreciated. Shout out to Q Dog Quincy Jackson for the Cash App as well. Definitely much appreciated. And thank you, Barn, for letting me know that it cut off 11 minutes after the hour. 11 minutes after the hour, so that I can go ahead and do the required edits. So, or maybe I won't edit it. Maybe we'll just make it. Maybe we'll give the people who come later the real live experience. Okay, we'll give them the real live experience. Okay. Now, I was mentioning that basically you want competition for everyone else, and that it's important that you know and that you are true to your motivations. In other words, when you look around at the other guy who is a monopoly and you say, understand that you're participating in one of the seven deadly sins, which is envy. And that's fine. Of course you're envious, like anybody else is envious, right? The seven deadly sins are ubiquitous. They exist all through culture and all through time because it's part of human nature. Us over here in this corner of YouTube, we don't deny nature, right? We don't deny nature. If there's one thing about this corner of YouTube that can be guaranteed and can be counted upon is that over here, we do not deny nature. And the seven deadly sins are part of your nature. And you are greedy and you want monopoly. Greed, in my particular rubric, my particular hierarchy of values, greed is a lot better than envy. Okay, greed is good. Gordon Gecko. In other words, whether or not, okay, on one hand, you could say at least someone benefits from greed, right? And you're saying that the audio may have been recorded on my end. Yeah, possibly. Greed, with greed, at least generally there is some kind of an exchange. With greed, at least there's some kind of value that someone is trying to create. Again, greed doesn't mean murder and theft. That's not what it says. A lot of people try to conflate that stuff all the time. Greed doesn't mean I'm going to kill you. Greed doesn't mean I'm going to steal from you. Greed just means I want more and more and more, right? So what I'm saying is this. I said that we all want to be monopolies. We all want to corner the market. And in order to do this thing, in order to do the 0 to 1 thing, in order to do this thing whereby we advance the world via technology, we need by definition to be a monopoly. We need by definition to do something that no one else has done before. How can you compete in an arena where the arena does not even exist? You need to be a monopoly. And I mentioned that we all want to be monopoly, even if in our little things. We want our little dry cleaning business to be a monopoly. We want to corner the market and we want to do something that's so nice. And generally speaking, we want to be good. We want to be so good that no one can compete, right? We want to be so good that no one can compete. And I'm saying that, look, when you're pointing to that other person that is a monopoly and you're trying to tear him down, understand that you're participating in envy. And now I'm going to state my personal preference. I stated it before. I'm going to elaborate upon it a little bit more. I said that I would take greed over envy any day. Greed, I mentioned, perhaps there may be some good that comes out of it in terms of you're trying to create value so that you can keep the majority of your value. You want to keep profits, the majority of your profits. First of all, you need to create the profits, right? You need to create the value and then you're trying to keep most of it to yourself. That kind of a thing, okay? But at least there's some kind of value generation. And let's take another scene. Let's paint a scene of the greed scene, let's say, okay? So the bunch of lawyers, okay, in New York, and they're betting on horses or they're betting on Bitcoin, and it's greed, and they're snorting coke on off mirrors, okay? And it's all greed, and yes, bet on horse number 5. Go, multiply my money. Greed. At least that scene is fun. Imagine a scene with people filled with envy. Let me get a 1 in the chat if you guys see the juxtaposition I'm trying to paint here. Okay? Which is my personal opinion, and I'm making an argument from the standpoint of intuition here, appealing to your intuition, using an intuition pump, as they say, by painting these two different scenes. One is a scene where we try to paint greed in its worst way, right? We're not even talking about the kind of greed that at least tries to create value. Let's say, okay, fine. Let's paint the scene of the cocaine snorting, horse betting, go, get me more money. At least they're having a good time. I don't even have to describe the scene in a room filled with people that are envious for you to already know that you don't even want to be there. For you to already know that it is a disgusting scene. The 7 deadly sins are not created equal. A lot of people, especially in the mob mentality, it's fine because the mob, one of the features of the mob is that it tends to sacrifice. Okay. Human society sacrifice. Have you ever wondered why all human societies do human sacrifice? It is an old thing. We tend not to do it anymore. We don't burn witches anymore, but that was very recent. The Inquisition, the burning of the witches, was very recent. And if you think that it's not done so much anymore, what do you think the Holocaust was? What do you think the Hutu and the Tutsis was? The mob loves sacrifice. It is part of human nature to want to sacrifice. And one could argue, and there's a book which I will do a review on called Things Hidden Since the Beginning of the Universe. So it's things hidden since the beginning of time. Okay. Now that's a very deep book. And it talks about this human sacrifice thing, which is a feature of the mob, the feature of the group. And that tendency to want to sacrifice someone is literally what was formalized and then done as human sacrifice in all these different societies that we see. Yes, 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 yes. The Mayans and all over Africa. And yes, that's the mob for you. And the envy thing is one of the means by which the sacrifice or the urge to sacrifice, the urge to scapegoat, it's one of the means by which that thing works itself through. So you need to be very careful when you participate in certain things. Again, the philosophical mindset is the mindset that opens everything out in the open. And over here in the RP space, we can at least understand nature. We do not shy away from nature. We do not shy away from looking at ourselves for what we are. You want to talk about female nature, this nature, that nature. Well, it is also the nature of you as a human being to want to sacrifice other human beings. You think it's not you? You think all those people who were sacrificing, you think the ubiquity of human sacrifice all through societies was not you? No, it is you. It is you. And you're just as likely to go back and do that, and you actually do participate in it right now. You just do it differently. You just do it in a different way. You're not burning witches at the stake anymore. But trust me, if you're not aware of your nature, you're just going to be. Anyways, we don't deal with those kinds of people in this channel. Okay. We don't deal with the sleeping sheep. Okay. And this is a far tangent from talking about startups, okay? We're talking about how to start companies. We were going to save the world. Jessica X was going to give us a robot. How did we get into human sacrifice? Ike, how did we get into human sacrifice? But that's just kind of how it is, man. Everything is tied up. Everything is everything. And Barton says, unfortunately, there is still too much of the philosophy that God will send those clients that I am entitled to my way. Yeah. Yes. On Felicia, the fact that you said that, okay, the fact that you said that means you're way ahead of most. Because being able to introspect and be aware of your vices is like half the battle. Okay, it's half the battle. Okay, and human sacrifice. Anyways, let's not go to. I will review that book though. Okay, and it is one thing that that we tend not to mention. Why? Till the very recent past, did we sacrifice people in different ways, different forms, some more formal than the other? What is this urge of the mob to kill, crucify him, burn her at the stake? What is that? There is a whole mechanism to it. There is a whole thing. There is a whole thing. When something is that ubiquitous, when something is that strong, it is a huge elephant in the room. I'm sure you would agree. It is a huge elephant in all of our rooms that we need to go find out what that is. Why do we want to kill each other? It's not other people that want to kill other people. It's you and me. It's you. It's me. We want to kill each other. You think it's other people? You have not begun to understand. Well, in other words, you're not a serious person. If you're the kind of person who always thinks that everything is other people, you don't understand the universe. The universe is one. Everything is one. It's you. You didn't come from heaven or somewhere else. This play has been going on for all eternity, and it's you. Okay? You crucified him and you burnt her. And until you understand why you do that kind of a thing, you're liable to do it in many other ways that you're not aware of. Again, you crucified him, you burnt her, you killed the other one at the stake all through time. And until you understand why you do that kind of thing, you're more liable to do it over and over again in more modern ways this time to everyone around you. Hence, be careful, ladies and gentlemen, and understand your nature. So, on a lighter note, we were talking about monopolies. Monopoly is obviously good for the insiders for the reasons we just mentioned, okay? You keep the profits. You don't have to compete, okay? And you don't have to fight bloody wars. You don't have to have this thin margin that restaurants have. Restaurants are the closest to perfect competition that we can think about. And everybody says, and everybody knows the restaurant business is a bad business, okay? Now, how about from the point of view of the outside? Monopoly is good for innovation because innovation comes with profits. And again, this is about 0 to 1. We need innovation. We need innovation. We need innovation. We look around the room. The room without the screens is a room from 1980. It has not changed since 1980. There are no flying cars and no Rosie the robots and so on and so forth. We need it. We need it. We need it. By definition, it is within the realm of monopoly. Okay? Monopoly creates the profits by which you can then continue to innovate and you can then continue to bring good things to the world. In other words, this is how, in turn, your greed and your thirst for monopoly, your thirst to be the first, go out there in the front and do something completely new, change the world, is actually going to bring innovation and good to the outsiders and not just you enjoying your profits. You're going to enjoy your profits. You're going to be able to use your profits to chase further greed. How do you chase further greed? You need to create something new again. And that's how the system works. At least this system within this particular silo, okay? Right? Not everything is a startup. All right? And I mentioned before about patents, right? You see, competitors and people in competitive relationships are always talking about how unique they are. Okay, you're the your restaurant has the best naan bread. It's the 10,000th South Indian restaurant in the Bay Area, but your grandma's naan recipe is different from all others. In other words, people engaged in competition are always trying to claim some kind of monopoly of that. They always try to, at least when they're trying to sell their business, how do you sell your business? You're like, I'm unique, I'm different, right? And then the people who are monopolies always try to hide it because they don't want the mob coming after them, which is something else, another thing, right? It is important to know, and this is just an aside, it is important to know that in order to build a monopoly, you're going to be losing money in the beginning because it takes time to build something of value. There is no market that already exists. In other words, if you're trying to come in and try to take another slice out of the pie from the restaurant business, pun intended, there is already a pie there. You can jump in and you can immediately start making profits. Thin margins they may be, but there is already a market open for you. A monopoly, you need to create the market. PayPal was paying people to use PayPal. Okay? PayPal was paying people to use PayPal.
but they were able to sustain it because of the growth that they were getting and so on and so forth and certain other things. But in order to do this kind of a new thing, it's not a place where you jump in and there's always immediate profits. And that's why it is usually the case that you will need money. Okay, it seems to be the case that let me look at the chat here. Let me look at the chat. There's an element of human sacrifice in business, isn't there? Yeah, that book on sacrifice is coming up. We will get deep into that. I'm interested. I got human sacrifice in your brain, Taylor. Yes, Taylor. Join Catholicism. We do that every Sunday. Yeah, the mass sacrifice. Ubiquitous. Yes. Go ahead. Our dictionary in the house. The bread and the wine. Eat his body and drink his blood. There is so much depth to that thing there. And by depth, real depth, not depth that has to do with woo woo, and not depth that has to do with dogma. In other words, Catholicism is just an instantiation of the fact that this sacrifice thing is out there and that it is a huge elephant in the room that needs to be addressed. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know, okay? We got a one in the chat if so far this is a conversation or this is something that makes sense. In other words, this book, I promise, I told you guys that Peter Thiel is a deep thinker. This is a small book, by the way. I highly recommend it, called 0 to 1. Small book, but dense. Dense in the sense that it takes a tiny little idea, technology versus globalization, and then he says, what does it imply? Look around you, okay? Actually, we're not making technological progress. And you're like, oh, crap. And then he goes down deep to the point where he actually then talks about the philosophical implications of this. In other words, it is not just the case that, oh, we're just believing in globalization. There is a kind of mindset. There is a mindset that goes along with this thing. The mindset of, oh, competition is good. It's all about spreading of the stuff. We don't have to start anything new and so on and so forth and that kind of a thing. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's try to quickly go through, because I didn't want this to, I always say I don't want these to be too long, but I get into things, I'm a bit long-winded, and so on and so forth, okay? There's something about if you build it, they will come. And this particular slide I'm going to rush particularly through so that then we get into the philosophical implications. In other words, what is implied by the fact that we no longer have been technologically advancing? There's something about what we now believe that we think that we could just now copy. There's something that we believe that we think, oh, everything that it perhaps is easy has already been done, and that everything else that is left to be done is perhaps, let me put it this way. We think that all the hard things have been done, and that all we have now are easy things and impossible things. That's just one way to put it. And this is Ted Kaczynski's argument, the Unabomber, right? He thought, oh, we need to break down everything in technology in society because all the hard things have been done and people need hard things to do in order to pursue, so on and so forth. A lot of his premises were correct. Obviously, he was a crazy guy sending pipe bombs to academicians and so on and so forth, which was a horrible thing. But he had very good premises. But one of the diseases that he was infected with was this kind of a disease that thinking that all the hard things have been done and all the things that are left are either impossible or easy. And people don't like to do easy. There's nothing fulfilling about doing easy things. Therefore, we need to kill we need to kill technology and kill the technologists, if you will, take things back to a place where people can continue now to strive for the hard things. Okay. So there's always a deeper level to everything that we talk about over here. Okay. It's never quite straightforward and never quite simple. But here's the thing about if you build it, they will come. It's not true. Okay. If you build it, they will not come. Okay. If you remember Solyndra, okay, Obama, let me not, I don't like that kind of talk about, the government, okay, propped up this Solyndra company, and it was a solar panel company. And oh yeah, let's give them money. And truth is, they were not good. They were not very good, okay? And then it was built and Solyndra collapsed. The government lost this money, okay? Selling is important, okay? Sell, sell, sell. You need to start with customers. You don't just start with a product or start with an idea. You need to start with customers, and you need to start small. You need to start, in other words, for example, Facebook was about Mark Zuckerberg and his friends, and then it was about Harvard, and then it was about colleges. This is how you start and build network effects. If you come in and say, oh, I would like to capture 10% of the world's population, then you really don't understand how to start things. No, you need to capture your neighbor first. In other words, sell it. Sell one person, create the network small so that you can do all the pivots and find a product market fit. Find a product market fit. The product market fit is something that happens in real time in the real world by actually having real customers, not in your head in a lab somewhere. That's a fiction, okay? In your head in a lab somewhere, just thinking up stuff, and you're going to come out and going to change the world, or you're just going to force it through. The government is just going to put billions in here, or do this or that or the other. That's not how it works. Oh, somebody just gave me $50 million, then I'll change the world. No. You need to show that you've changed your neighborhood and that all you need is $50 billion and that you could scale that. Let me get a one in the chat if you understand what this slide is really talking about here. And this is just an aside talking about the 0 to 1, okay? How you can go ahead and do this kind of a thing. We already talked about how monopoly is great and how competition is for losers. Those are two provocative aspects of the book that I needed to dwell on. And that's why I took some time in that area, because they're very different from conventional thinking, right? But over here, we're back to just some simple flowing ideas here. Got to understand, and let me get a one in the chat if you understand that the way to do it is you need to have demonstrated that you have indeed sold it to all your neighbors. And we know this in Shark Tank, right? They go out there and they'll be like, yeah, what I need this money for is so I can buy 50,000 computers or whatever, so that I can then meet this other demand, because I've outstripped my resources and I've already did this and did that and the other. As a matter of fact, when Mark Zuckerberg came to Peter Thiel, who wrote this book, to ask for $500,000 for Facebook, and Peter Thiel was one of the first investors, right? Mark Zuckerberg had a very specific need. In other words, he had already demonstrated the utility of his network, and so on and so forth. Again, sell it. You need to have already sold it. You need to already have customers so that you can actually begin to do the product market fit. And then, okay, you need to start small. You need to then go on and enlarge from that point, okay? If you want to just go into a large market, that's what some people tend to do. Some people will come to you and they'll say, you know what? I would like, there's this industry, let's say, the X industry, the car industry, the dry cleaning industry in Ohio. The dry cleaning industry in Ohio is a $10 billion industry. And if we could and I'm just going after 1% of that industry, and if I can get just 1%, it's like, no. A big market is by definition already sewn up. A big market by definition, you're going to go in there and it's filled with competition. A big market by definition has very little profit margins for someone who's coming in new. You don't have all the first mover advantages and the network effects and so on and so forth. What you need to do is start small, especially if you're doing something that is worthwhile and new. Start small, sell it. Actually sell it. Selling is important. It's not just all product, all design. No, you actually have to have good salespeople go out there, sell the idea, actually have an audience or a clientele, learn from the clientele so that you can pivot and make the product better. And by the time you're asking for capital, it's just a scale, right? And you're already, and as I mentioned in my last book review, which was about something similar, but it's about strategic growth in business, you want to demonstrate to the people who are investing in you that you will grow whether they had your money. The way to get things in this world, we know, is to demonstrate that we don't need them, right? You want a loan? Demonstrate that you don't need a loan. In other words, show that you have collateral and you have good credit and that you don't actually need the loan. People will give you the loan when you demonstrate mastery. You will get her number or her Instagram or whatever when you demonstrate that you don't need her number or her Instagram and you don't give a damn about her number or Instagram, and you will move on and you will survive without it, and she will throw it at you. That's how it works, right? In other words, you attract things, you don't beg for them. And begging for them does not attract them to you. You want her to throw her number at you. You want them to throw the money at you by saying, I don't need your money. I'll take it in order to scale, but I already have this thing going and I will do it with or without you, right? That's how you get things in the world. Okay, there is the famous quote from the Bible, right? Those who have more will be given. That's just the fact of life. If you have, more will be given to you. If you don't have, even the little that you have will be stripped away. The world is not fair. It was never meant to be fair. Okay? Is success mostly luck? This is one of the things that we tend to think in this kind of in recent times. Okay? In my last stream, I talk about people. Well, in one of the streams, anyways, and this was the one about the cost of pursuing your passion. I interviewed Dr. Thunder, and we talked about how these successful people always answer certain questions, basically, like, oh, pursue your passions. Another one is people like to say how they're lucky, right? Now, luck exists, especially bad luck, okay? But trust me, no one really knows if success is all about luck. But the data would seem to suggest, in other words, we don't have scientific knowledge. We cannot go and do a double-blind study and see if we created these circumstances and these other circumstances, like would a Facebook happen again? In other words, these 0 to 1 events are singular events, and singular events by definition have data points of 1 only. And with a data point of 1, you cannot claim to have scientific knowledge. But the aggregate of the data would suggest, for example, that there is something to strategic planning, and there is something to sales, and there's something to skills, and so on and so forth, because certain people tend to do it over and over again. Taking Elon Musk or Peter Thiel, for example, they tend to over and over and over again do certain things. And yes, you may have some colorism folks coming in here and say, well, yeah, they're just succeeding because the white man, because they're white men. And well, let's see. Indonesia, my country, is South Asian and mixed. Oh, okay, I see most population. Oh, interesting. Just reading the chat here. Okay. In other words, the mindset that competition is good there is a certain kind of mindset that emphasizes globalization, or that is anti the 0 to 1, anti-invention, that tends to think that things just happen of their own. We tend to think that evolution takes care of everything. Evolution, luck, just let the system run and things will just happen. That's what this slide is kind of representing. We do not know the actual answer. Now we're getting into the philosophical aspects of things. In other words, what is the mindset that goes along with this lack of technological progress that we see around this room? The room of atoms, the space of atoms, which is heavily regulated, where you cannot make progress, where people are constantly blocking you, which we already know is not sustainable if we continue with this globalization and spreading old means and old methods to the world. We cannot use the same fertilizers and pesticides and internal combustion engines to raise the living standards of all of the world. It'll be a disaster. There are no resources. We don't have enough resources for that, and so on and so forth. Okay. So besides the fact that that is a disaster, in fact, there is also a disaster going on in our heads when we tend to just think, oh, things just happen in and of themselves, is what we're really saying. All we got to do is chillax now. We've already done everything, and we just got to let evolution take place. Okay, just let the thing roll through. And anyone that tries to come out and say, no, I'm going to try to use clean nuclear technology, which again, I definitely would like you guys to type in nuclear, modern nuclear technology or nuclear technology 3.0 or whatever, and also the name of Bill Gates, because he's one person that is kind of promoting all the advancements that have been made in nuclear technology. And just an aspect, nuclear technology is just one aspect of things, okay, which demonstrates the fact that we don't want to progress in this world of atoms and the world of energy and so on and so forth, right? We just think, oh no, stop. We can't do anything, nothing, no nuclear, no, nothing, no more. We're satisfied with doing all our advancements in the world of technology. Because that world is highly unregulated. Okay? Taylor says, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. 100%. Okay? Luck and talent and things like that. Okay. All right. Magic, things just happening in and of themselves. Okay. All right. 0 to 1, okay, is more. In other words, if you're going to, these things that we've asked ourselves so far, we said, hey, ask yourself, what is an important truth that you believe in that no one else or that majority of people do not believe? Ask yourself, this was my own particular thing. I said, in any kind of business that you are in, what can I bring in that the customer may not even know he wants right now? What can I augment, bring together? What can I add? What is this new thing? It's a good thing to constantly think about. And don't expect that the answer is just going to pop in your head. But if you ask yourself over and over and over again, maybe 5 years down the line, you're going to invent something new within your particular space, right? But all these things have to do with active probing and active doing, not just sitting back and luck, right? Right? We're talking about philosophical implications. Do you think you have agency? Do you actually think you can make a dent? Or do you just think you're just going to relax and let the world happen? All that needs to happen now is globalization. All that needs to happen now is copying, right? We do not live in a time, and we have not lived in a time none of us were born, as a matter of fact, in a time when people were in the West, at least, were still actively doing things. Most of the largesse that we now enjoy were from previous generations who actively did things. I'm going to actively try to irrigate California. I'm going to actively do this and that and the other, okay? We have philosophical hangups. Okay, there's implications to this lack of technological growth and so on and so forth, okay? Again, small book, but with vast implications, right? No one knows again about this, and this is just answering that question. Well, is success a question of luck? Well, no one knows. But how you or what you believe will affect your output in terms of what you try. Okay, we now tend to believe in indefinite optimism rather than definite optimism. Indefinite optimism, okay, it is the world of kind of like lawyers and bean counters and people who just think, okay, all we need to do now is create financial instruments and squeeze all the profits out of, like the juice is already, the fruit is there. We're just going to keep on squeezing the fruit. Okay, and we're going to squeeze it and globalize it, and things are just going to continue to happen. Progress is just going to continue to flow. We don't have to do anything in particular. Okay, we're going to indefinitely progress. Indefinitely progress. Okay, Taylor says agency does contribute to positioning yourself the right place at the right time. Definitely, definitely. We need to give ourselves back this mindset that we can affect at least our lives, and that we do have some agency. This is not an argument about free will, which may or may not exist. I'm still open to the fact that we do not have free will. Fine. But there is a difference in mode of operation and in terms of what you try when you actually think that you have agency. Free will might be an illusion, but it is a powerful illusion that actually affects real outcomes in the world. And I'm fine with that, right? And especially in this area of actually inventing things and so on and so forth, pushing the world forward in terms of technology, we have to believe, we have to try, because this other mode of kind of, oh, things will just evolve and things will just globalize and things will just be copied and stuff will just happen. No, that leads to disaster. And we have been, again, squeezing that fruit so much, fruit that we had nothing to do with creating, that we don't understand that it takes active doing. We think that it's just going to be there forever. And all we need to do is just keep on regulating and keep on making fiat currency and spreading it around and doing this and doing that and universal basic income and this and that and the other. Not that those are bad things, but that you need to free up the landscape for people to be able to invent. All right. I read somewhere a long time ago that talent is a gift developed by hard work. 100% the work, the action of the mind. In other words, what is this saying? What is the opposite of this saying? What is the opposite of this 0 to 1 mentality, this mentality of creating in the world of atoms, not in digital space, but actually changing the world and so on and so forth? What is the opposite of that? The opposite of that, in terms of its philosophical implication, says that, our minds are really feeble and we really can't really do anything. And we're really just, a bunch of chaotic bag of chemicals that really have no agency whatsoever, right? That tends to be a lot of times the modern, or at least the postmodern story, right? In terms of our lack of any kind of agency, our lack of any kind of, again, you may call it free will, our lack of ability to break outside of any kind of matrix within which we're in to form another matrix, to do something new, right? This is not something this is a fairly new kind of belief system. And when you're stuck in the milieu, right, when you're stuck in the soup, you tend not to know the madness of the mob that you have inculcated into your soul. And this one particular madness now that we live in is this madness of everything just happens automatically. Everything will just continue to happen. And evolution will take care of things. There is no active part. There is no agency involved, right? We no longer think, and try grand things and so on and so forth. We think things are just going to happen. Again, as I mentioned, the lawyers are just going to come in and, oh yeah, all we got to do is share things and hammer out some contracts. And the financiers are, let's just create some more financial instruments and the resources and divvy it up this way and repackage it that way and sell this to that. And then the insurance agency sells that to this. And oh my God, it collapsed. Oh, too big to fail. More fiat currency, quantitative easing, this, that, and the other. All we got to do is just manage the things. Nothing else, nothing new is going to happen. Nothing new needs to happen. No one needs to invent anything. Okay. Indefinite politicians just taking polls, putting their thing, going wherever the wind blows, right? No politician is going to come out and say, this is what we need to do. We need to put a man in the moon. Even back then in the 60s, we used to say things like that. We got to do this. Why do we do it? Because it is hard. Okay? Because it makes no damn sense. Because we're human beings. We're going to do. We're going to try. We're going to try. We're going to try. Now it's just what do the polls say? What is politically correct? What is expedient? How do I manage this? Where are the lawyers? Right? This is the situation we find ourselves in. Okay? And I don't want to get too much into the philosophy, but there is indefinite philosophers too, that just talk about society as though it was a fixed thing. And you just talk about freedom and fairness and distribution and assume that peace, which is the main thing that undergirds society, That peace is just a given. Peace does not need to be actively thought through. This thing that I mentioned to you, for example, about sacrifice, right? We're not gonna mention that. We're not gonna mention that human beings are evil, and that's you, that's me. As I said, we sacrificed all of them. We killed all those people. We burnt them at the stake. If you think it was other species that did that, or other people, those bad people over there, you are fooling yourself. Okay? You need to know that about yourself. You need to know that, especially about yourself in group formation. You need to know about the mob. The mob is a formation that you can take. And the mob also lives in your head. You may think, I haven't been part of any mob lately, so I think I'm safe from mob thinking. No, the mob is in your head as well. And you evolved also with the mob, and you're just part of them. So this kind of idea of, oh, nothing needs to be done actively for us to be able to live in peace. All we got to do is talk about how we're going to share the pie, right? This is this kind of indefinite progress as opposed to definite progress kind of thing, okay? So we're going to move on a little bit and talk about the fact that there are still secrets out there in the world, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, there's still secrets out there in the world, which is something that is anti our current milieu, our current landscape, our current way of believing things. Barton says, not everyone is that intelligent. Most people are sheep-like. Yeah, that's obviously, I mean, yeah, by definition, right? You know, the bell curve, right? The average. And I know our corner of YouTube has been filled with the talk about average, right? Most people are average at best, right? Which is kind of, well, average, which is also normal, okay? The normal curve or normal or expected value or average is by definition the bulk of anything, right? The bulk of a normal distribution, and not every distribution is a normal distribution, but intelligence will be a normal distribution, for example. The bulk of all normal distributions are in the middle, okay? They're chunked up there. So yeah, I do know, and I do need to grow my channel more in the sheep-like direction to get some more sheep in here, right? It's part of the that's part of the game that people need to play, okay? Especially people with their eyes open. In other words, I'm not going to be over here talking about esoteric things and expecting that I'm going to have thousands of people, you know, all kinds of people. Like, no. They don't want to handle it. They don't, it's fine, right? However, there is also an active part that says, okay, I'm going to actively do sheep-like things to bring some more sheep-like people in here so that, okay, not saying that, but the way in which you do that is important. But now we're talking about strategy in general when it vis-a-vis any kind of education and entertainment. Those are strategies that need to be thought about. Okay, but generally speaking, because when one of the strategies, you know, you got to have some good production and so on and so forth. And I'm going on tangents again, but I'm all about having my eyes wide open, both with you guys and with myself. With myself, that's a given, right? But also with you guys, right? I'm gonna say things like this. I'm gonna say, yeah, you know, how do I get some of that sheep money? Hey, the sheep money is as green as any other, right? Whether in any kind of business, any kind of outreach, and so on and so forth. Uh, please no woke. Oh, no. Oh no. Oh no. No, not that. No. I just mean normal people. Okay. And that's why I prefaced this particular diatribe here by saying average, normal, and so on and so forth. I just mean normal regular, pleasant people. You say hi to them at the grocery store and so on and so forth, but they're not into Friedrich Nietzsche, and they're not into understanding the depths of human sacrifice, and they're not into meditating and understanding their subjective consciousness and breaking it down into feeling, image, and talk and paying attention to their breathing and blah, 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 blah. Right? Just normal people, right? Because community is important, and there's always levels in community, right? Sheep money is good money. Yes, yes, yes. Our resident dictionary, milieu. Milieu means the physical, usually, actually, the word, it's kind of like a French word for soup, if you will. It's a word like, if you want to kind of think about it, it's that thing that you're steeped in. You're steeped in the soup, your social, physical environment, and you don't notice it, right? Thank you, thank you, thank you very much, the Goldie Jones channel, for doing the translation over here. Okay, but yes, 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 it is well understood, and I don't fool myself into thinking that everybody should be into what I'm into. No, 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 no. They should not be. Why should they be? It's a waste of their time. Anyways, so we're talking about the fact, okay, that there's still secrets out there. Okay, and we're going to rush through this part here because I didn't expect it to be this long. Again, apologies for that chunk there in the middle of this, 11 minutes after the hour, where we lost some audio. Okay, we lost some audio 11 minutes after the hour. My apologies for that. For those who will be listening later on, we will leave it there. Okay, we'll have the full experience of this one, and then later on I'll be cutting it into chunks and then releasing the chunks that way. That's how I'm going to try to mitigate this particular thing, because I think this is a very important book. It's a very important concept. It looks very simple. Oh, notes for startup. Oh, how do I start up a business? Strategies and so on and so forth. But then it hits you with things like, look around you, no technological progress. How is that sustainable? What does that mean? How do we change that? And what are the philosophical implications that has led us to this point? Okay. Check out Peter Thiel, by the way. Check out his check him out on YouTube. He's worth listening to. Not the best orator because he has a stutter. Okay. So it's not the best orator, right? Just give him be kind, right? But he's wicked sharp. Okay. Now, the fact that there are no more geographical frontiers, okay, no more geographical frontiers, and the fact that we're risk averse is a problem. You guys have already been able to put, or you guys will be able to put this particular two statements in context, okay? The context of this whole conversation that we're having, okay? No more geographical frontiers goes hand in hand with just kind of not trying stuff anymore, okay? Because we are animals. We are sheep. The fact that there's no new land to explore, all of a sudden will start also making us think that there's nothing new to be done anymore. No new frontiers to be broken. Yes, we are that simple. Okay. And we're also risk averse, and we don't want to break up a good thing, and why rock the boat? We have a little situation here and so on and so forth. Now, a little more keys on the company stuff. Foundations are key. Who you start a business with is super important, okay? A bad partner can be like a bad marriage. You want to be careful with that. You want to make sure, okay, if you just meet somebody, for coffee, some guy you met on LinkedIn, and you meet him for coffee, you're like, okay, cool, he wants to start this business. Okay, cool, let's partner again and start business. That'd be like going to Vegas and marrying the first person you met on a slot machine somewhere. You could win the jackpot, right? But it's not advisable, okay? Goldie Jones, Felicia, would you advise that people go and just marry the first person they meet at the slot machine in Vegas? Same thing when you're trying to partner up with somebody to start a business. You should have previous history. You should have previous history. You should have previous history with this person, okay? Not just somebody out there, because you should already know how to work out your kinks. You should already know your particular issues, your particular lane, and so on and so forth. Because it is more like a relationship than just a combination of know-how. Oh, well, he knows this and I know that, so let's combine. No, there are many people who know this and many people who know that. Doesn't mean they always should come together in some kind of a partnership, right? And you will find that actually, as a matter of fact, people spend more time, especially even in your regular work, you spend a whole lot more time if you do the 9 to 5 thing in an office somewhere. And I know 2020 is different. You spend a lot more time than with your spouse. But in a startup, in something where you're trying to do something together, something that is new, it's going to be more time, more intense time, more friction, more chaos to be dealt with. So it's not just a matter of, oh, let me find, I need some kind of a lawyer type, or I need an accountant type to start a business with. No, it's more like a marriage. Very, very, very important. Okay. It is more like a marriage, it's more like a relationship, and you need to have the right people involved. Otherwise, it'll blow up in your space. And one thing that you need to definitely hammer out is ownership, control, and management. Who owns it? We know what ownership means, right? Who can sell it? Let's put it that way. Who can sell it and put the money in their pocket, right? And then in terms of what percentage of what, right? And then control is like the board, right? And then there's management. Management implements stuff. That's what management is. Management doesn't really control, just implements. So when you have a partnership, you have a small group coming together, you're trying to start something. Okay, maybe it's just 2 people. You should understand ownership, control, and management very well defined and clearly stated. Otherwise, there's going to be all kinds of friction, which there will be regardless, but at least, okay, you can help minimize this. All right. And then just a note for investors, which is that you need to understand the 80-20 rule. Ha ha ha. Over here in the RP space, we know the 80-20 rule very well. It's called the Pareto Principle. Basically means that 80% of your profits will be coming from 20% of your customers. 80% of the work, okay, in your organization will be done by 20% of the workers. And you know what? And there's something here to be gleaned from this, okay? I don't think I would step at Vegas, so maybe America fascinates, it scares me. So here's what's even crazy about the 80-20 rule. That's what people don't tend to understand. Like, %80 of the work, okay? If you have 10 workers, 80% of the work is done by 2 of them. Or let's not use that. Let's use 100. You have 100 workers, because I want to show like the regression, the curve as it goes down here. You have 100 workers, 80% of the work is done by 20 of them. And of that 80% work that these 20 of them are doing, only 20%, which means only 5 of them are doing that 80% of the 80%. Let me get a 1 in the chat if you know what I mean there. So that thing turtles all the way down. You take the big work, 80% of the work is being done by 20 people, okay? Now you take that 80% of the work amongst those 20, only 5 of them are doing 80% of that work. It's a very, it's, and this is true. We know this. Human beings vary very, very, very vastly, ladies and gentlemen. And this is one thing that our egalitarian impulse, our democratic impulse, and watch. Okay, I made a couple of videos. One was on freedom, equality, and nature. It was a deep dive into political philosophy from a certain perspective. And then I also recently did another video. I hope you remember the name. But we talked about the democratic impulse that tends to focus on transparency. Yes, the video was called Transparency Leads to Groupthink. Okay. Our egalitarian impulse, our democratic impulse is to kind of think, well, man, people are kind of equal, kind of the same. No, not at all. Not even close. We can understand this in terms of, let's say, sports, right? We know the Usain Bolts of the world and the percentage that they represent and how far away they are from the rest of us. We know the Michael Jordans and the percentage that they represent and how far they are from the rest of us. The same thing is true in professional work, ladies and gentlemen. Not every surgeon, like surgeons are just, in the world of surgeons, same thing. You have superstar surgeons that are just far removed from everybody else. Superstar engineers that are just far removed in terms of their capacity to work, in terms of their intelligence, in terms of everything. People are very, very unequal. Not something that us democratic types, relativist types, politically correct types like to hear, because we gotta do one man / one woman, one vote thing. And we're all equal under the law thing. And we all have equal rights, right? Under the nature, the law, the state of nature construction, whereby I put a gun to your head and I ask you what you want, and you say, I want life, I want liberty, and I want pursuit of happiness. And then we can all say, hey, do we all agree, generally speaking, that that's the lowest level? And Leo Strauss was a philosopher from University of Chicago, that the modern philosophers built on low but solid ground. The ancient philosophers tried to look at ideals. The modern philosophers said, what are your base emotions? What do you want? Right? Which is where rights come from, the doctrine of rights. Speaking of political philosophy now. We're not talking about Plato's Republic and the ideal society and the ideal man and the ideal way of educating them and the right rule and the philosopher king and all that kind of stuff. Like, you know what? Just forget that, okay? If I had a gun to your head right now, what do you want? And we could all agree, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Okay, good. We'll give you that. That's our social contract, all right? Forget all these other stuff. So low but solid ground. It's solid because we can all recognize it, okay? But given that project, modern philosophical / political, in terms of political philosophy project, let's just call it the modern political project, right? State of nature, so on and so forth. We tend to not want to talk about the non-egalitarian aspects of human beings, the aristocratic, or shall I say that the fact that there is a best. Okay, but we know it, and the 80-20 rule proves it to us all the time. Okay, and that the difference between people is huge. It's not even close, people. And over here we try to keep our eyes open, so we're not gonna sugarcoat it and say, oh, but you're okay too. And those things go without saying. No one is saying go kill people now because let's kill everyone who's not Usain Bolt. Let's kill everyone who's not Michael Jordan. Like, why does, no. But we can still recognize the vastness, okay? The vastness of the difference. Okay, so moving right along, and we're gonna land the plane. We'll land the plane soon, ladies and gentlemen. We'll land the plane. 80-20 rule. Why are we talking about this? Basically, because you got to understand, either from the point of view of an investor, okay, and you may be investing in other things, or you may be investing in yourself, or you may be investing your time in particular endeavors, let's say, that you need to understand that there's only certain things that have potential. Now, venture capitalists, for example, let's say they have 100 companies. They have like thousands of companies to choose from, 1,000 possible startups. They choose the 100 that have a certain potential, whereby each one can pay for all the rest. In other words, if only one makes it, it'll pay for all the loss and all the rest. Let's just say I only gave each $1,000, which is silly. It's more like $1 million, $500,000 to give these people, right? But just to make it simple, I have thousands of companies that coming at me. I'm not just going to go investing my money in them. Same again, we're not all venture capitalists, but this is true. This is the law of the universe, right? 80-20 rule, exponential growth, compound interest. It's just kind of it manifests itself in so many places. And also the famous Bible quote, for those whom have, more will be given, and to those who do not have, even the little that they do have will be taken away, right? If we look at planets, the bigger anyways, especially socioeconomic data is highly skewed. Okay? In other words, and I know this is a tangent, but just to understand more fully that the bell curve, which you described earlier, exists for things like, let's say, average height. The height of people, you're going to have the middle, okay, being most people. And then really, really tall people, you have a few. Most people in the middle, really, really short people, you have a few. You can all picture the bell curve, right? That is true for things like height. But for things like human skill, let's take, for example, book sales. No. It's like two people selling all the books in the world in terms of like authors. It's Stephen King and some other buddy of his that sells like 95% of the books. Or album sales, or money. Socioeconomic distributions are not like that, okay? You could have only one person to the right of the mean, right? Whereas, like, what does it really mean to talk about the average income in an area where Bill Gates lives, right? You're like, doesn't mean anything, because one particular data point skews the whole data. It's kind of what I'm saying. If you have 100 people and you find out what the average height of those 100 people are, and then you bring the tallest person in the world into the group, it's not really going to change the average of height that much. But, well, let me put it this way. Nassim Taleb tends to put it this way. He says, if I were to say the average height of the people in this room is 5'9", you would kind of think, yeah, okay, maybe there's some people who are 5'7", some 5'5", maybe there's a 6'1" person. Oh, there, look, there's Ike. There's one of the tall people over there. He's 6'4". Blah, 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 blah. That kind of a distribution, right? But in other words, you could kind of spread it all out. You could even say most people in that room are about 5'9", since the average is 5'9", right? But if I were to tell you that the average income in a room, or like they said, the net worth or the average net worth in a room was $100 million, you know that it is more likely that there is one guy there with 990, well, whatever, that has the $100 million, and everyone else is negative, like right? In other words, for socioeconomic things are heavily skewed. And when you're talking about something like that's going to succeed, like a company, or where you put your efforts economically and so on and so forth, it's going to be heavily skewed. Again, so I have thousands of companies to choose from. I'm only going to choose 100. I choose the 100 that have a potential such that if I give each of them $1,000 each, so that I spend $100,000 and only one succeeds, I can get my $100,000 back. So the same thing applies for your efforts, okay? So management is planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. Is it all? There is something above management, right? Let's say your board. The board is above management. However, let me get a one in the chat if you understand the whole idea of the things to invest both your time or, let's say, money in, are the things that will have the potential if you're to scatter into to these different baskets, okay, but each one basket should be able to replenish the loss from all the other baskets. If they don't have that potential, they're not worth investing in. They're not all going to make it, but if one pops, and this is how venture capitalists spend their money, venture capitalists like Peter Thiel, if one Facebook makes it or if one makes it, boom, all your money is made, right? 99 of them are going to fail. Okay, that's kind of how it works. But out of the thousands, you pick the 100 that can get you your money back. That can get you your money back. So, good question to ask yourself if you're starting something. And I'm going to end it with this. Why would the 20th employee work for you? Why would the 20th one? Not, hey, come partner up with me. Everybody knows, okay, the first guy has some kind of incentive because he's going to be in the beginning of a company. You're going to give him some shares, and if it makes sense, then it's going to blow up and he's going to make a lot of money. We all know the story of the guy who did the mural at Facebook, or all these early employees of Facebook, many, many, many millionaires coming out of Facebook and Amazon and so on and so forth, and things of that nature, right? So there's incentive for getting shares and money. There's incentive for getting some kind of a big title. But if you really want to know if you have something, or this is another one of those questions, again, in terms of useful questions to ask yourself when you're trying to start something, that kind of focuses your mind so you can think, what do I have here? What are my values? What is enticing about what I'm doing? Ask, well, why would the 20th person come work for this company? Not the first few people that come in. Yeah, that makes sense why they would. Doesn't mean the company is special. Doesn't mean I'm anything special. It makes sense that people will come in the beginning. They'll be the chief of this and the head of that. And that's, it's a big title with big responsibility. It's enticing. It's a good incentive. They may get some shares and so on and so forth, a good chunk of the company. That's a good title. I mean, that's a good incentive. Why would the 20th employee come work for you? Because if you're really trying to do something that's worthwhile and sustainable, you should be asking yourself that kind of a question. Even if you don't think what you're going to be doing is worthwhile and sustainable, ask yourself that kind of a question in order to push yourself to even be bigger than you thought you could be, even be more significant than you thought you could be, even be more valuable and more worthwhile a venture than you thought you were, right? I'm just a regular whatever business over here. But ask yourself, what makes me unique? Why would the 20th person come into this company? And you may be able to come up with a reason why. Like, God damn it, it's because I'm the best damn t-shirt printing company this side of the Mississippi, and no one else has ever used this particular kind of hemp from Canada and brought it in through the Mississippi River and blah, blah, blah. And no one else will do this. And it is very important that this be done. Two things. Not only is it important that something be done, but that no one else would do it. That's the shape that your answer should take to this question. No, okay, ladies and gentlemen. You guys have given me a lot of your time. Okay, a lot of your time, ladies and gentlemen, and I understand, and I'm definitely appreciative. I am definitely appreciative. So we are going to wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to wrap it up. How do we wrap it up? We wrap it up by pointing out some of the key points that we've made, not in a logical order, but simply in a way to highlight some of the main points of the book. There is a philosophical implication of the state that we find ourselves in, which is that we believe in indefinite optimism rather than definite optimism. One key point. Another two key points is that competition is for losers, monopoly is great. Okay, another key point. Okay, to shake us out of that groupthink. Competition is for losers, monopoly is great. And then the main thing in the book is to understand the difference between technology, which is a 0 to 1 effort, and globalization, which is a question of spreading the already created one and taking that one and multiplying it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a book by Peter Thiel called 0 to 1 Notes on Startup. It is a very small book, but a very dense book. And I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it to you guys. If you get it in audio book form, it's only about 5 hours worth of listening. Okay, and it's one of those things you can listen to over and over again. But I'm introducing you guys to Peter Thiel himself, not just the book. I say go ahead and look up Peter Thiel on YouTube. Check out what he has to say. He is someone that you should definitely be listening to, because not only is he a serious thinker, but he has billions of dollars that tends to make people independent in their thinking. You want to listen to smart people that have money, because then they're not so beholden to those who have money. Okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Shout out to those of you who hit up the super chat. Shout out to Q Dog once again. Okay? Shout out to Q Dog. Shout out to Afi Kingdom in the house. Shout out to Kerrigan. I believe Kerrigan is Goldie, the Goldie channel. You guys hit up the Cash App. That was very, very, very nice. Very nice. Much appreciated, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you very much. Says it was an interesting talk. Thank you very much. You have a paperback of the book. Actually, I do not. I actually have the audiobook for this one. And it is only 5 hours, as I said. So it's a small book, a cheap book. Get the audiobook or get the paperback on Amazon. Watch out for Peter Thiel. Okay? Watch Peter Thiel, ladies and gentlemen. And till next time, battle within.
On the shore, relentless in the war. The legions in our hearts shed waters in our balls. The spirit and the flesh, the emotions that arrest. The cerebral will contest, propelling the unrest. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded. The teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand. Stand up, make we burn Babylon. Guess I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking. Demons searching, the spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. With the semblance of a blaze, with gratitude and rage, we touch another page with delirious delight, impervious to light. This vitality and might encourages the flight. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded, the teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand. Stand up, make we burn Babylon. Cause I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Guess I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the wind will fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the wind will fight the battle within.